Right, Assalamualaikum guys. This is Safiullah Sheikh from Alpha Learning, and then we'll be solving O levels paper, that is 4024 paper 11 of October November 2025. Right, my name is Safiullah. We'll just fill it real quick, and here we go. Let's start. So we are supposed to cover this paper. This is non-calculator paper. Let's start with question number one. It says write down the reciprocal of 7 over 2. So that means for this part, what we're going to do is we will just reciprocate the two numbers, flip the numbers, and this turns out to be 2 over 7. All right. Let's move on to the next part. It says some children record the number of hours they each spend watching television one day. The results, these are the results. Write down the mode. Mode is the most repeated number. We'll just highlight the numbers that are repeated most number of times. 2 was repeated 3 number of times, and then 7 is repeated 2 number of times. So I think 2 is repeated most number of times, which is 3 times. Hence the answer is going to be 2. Now the next part says one of the 9 children is chosen at random. So there are 9 children, out of which we choose one, and that is a random selection. It says find the probability that the child spends more than 6 hours watching television on this day. Now more than 6 means that we need to consider 7 and the numbers above 7. So it's going to be this, and this, right? So it says more than 6 hours. So how many numbers do we have? We have, the probability is going to be favorable upon total. That turns out to be what? That turns out to be 4 over 9. Here we go. That's how we're going to do this one. Now the next part says a shirt costs $24. In a scale, the cost is reduced by 15%. Work out the cost of the shirt in the sale. So हमने शर्ट की जो है प्राइस निकालनी है आफ्टर सेल. What we're going to do is we know that the actual cost is $24, right? And the discounted percentage is 15%. So first we'll find out the discount. What's the discount? Let's find that out real quick. So it's going to be 15%. What we're going to do it, we are going to find 15% of 24. It's going to be 15 over 100 times 24, and we solve this real quick. So this would be what? This would be 150, and 12 we take divided with 2. We further do it with 2, so it will be 2, it will be 6, sorry, and 25, right? So what we get is basically 15 upon 25 into 6. When we further solve this, it's going to be 3, and it's going to be 5, right? So this is going to be 18 over 5. So when we do this, right? So how do we solve it further? What we'll do is we'll make sure that we convert the denominator into 10, 100 or 1000. So we can easily convert this into 10 by multiplying with 2. We'll multiply with this with 2 as well. This is going to be 36 over 10. Hence the value is 3.6, which is the discounted amount. But we're supposed to find the cost after the sale. So it's going to be what? It's going to be 24 minus 3.6. Hence it's going to be $20.4. Here we go. Right? Let's move on to the next part. The diagram shows 5 straight lines. We have 5 straight lines, and then what we're supposed to do is the diagram shows 3 horizontal parallel lines and 2 sloping parallel lines. So there are numerous parallel lines. We can see these arrows that shows us what parallel lines do we have for this case. Now we need to find the value of P. This is P. Now we should be knowing that if we see a C shape with parallel lines, the sum of internal angles is 180. So for that reason, it's going to be 180. P is going to be what? That is going to be 180 minus 112. And the answer is going to be 68. What's the reason? The reason is the C shape, but that's not the reason that we're going to write. We're going to write co-interior angles. The reason is going to be co-interior angles. Co-interior angles sum up to 180. That's going to be the reason, right? Now the next part is to find Q. Now in order to find Q, we may need to find this angle. Now how are you going to find this? Again, the same reason. Co-interior angles. So due to co-interior, this is going to be 68, and then now we see sort of an F shape, that is a rotated F, and this, in this reason, we know that these angles are same. So this angle is going to be what? This is going to be 68. What's the reason? The reason for this is going to be corresponding angles. Now the F shape results in corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are same. That's going to be the reason, right? What we're going to say is for F shape, the reason is going to be corresponding angle. For C shape, the reason is going to be co-interior angles, and for Z shape, we say it's an alternating angle. Now let's move on to this part. It says the table shows how some people travel to work. Now we need to complete this table. Now these are the angles shown of the pie chart. We need to know that the sum should be 360, right? And then we are supposed to find the missing table because it says complete the table, right? We are supposed to find the missing numbers. How are you going to do this? We know that this 20 a number of people represent 120 degrees, so we can say 5 number of people would represent x amount, right? So what we're going to say is 20 represents 120 and then 5 would represent x. So what we'll do, we will basically be cross multiplying them. When we do that, what are we going to get? We would say 20x is equals to 120 times 5, and then x would be what? X would be 120 into 5 over 20, and then we can simplify this 1 times, and this is going to be 6. Now the answer for x is going to be what? That is going to be 30, right? So we say this is going to be 30. Now, since we know the sum is 360, what we'll do is we will subtract all these numbers. So when we do that, what are we going to get? We are going to get 360 minus 120 minus 72 minus 30. Let's do this real quick. The answer for this is going to be what? It's going to be 120 subtracted from 360, that gives us 240, and then when we subtract this further, this is going to be, let me do it now, 240 minus 72 and minus 30, this is going to be 240 minus 102, and this is going to be 138, right? This is 138. Now we need to find the number of people for this case. Now what will we do for this part? Now for this part, what we're going to do is again cross multiplication. So we just take any of the ratios. Let's just say 20 and 120, right? Let's just take the same ratio. 20 people are equals to what? We would say, let me write parts so it's easy. Never mind, not for this one. We're going to say 20 people are equals to 120, is equal to 120 angle, right? So we will write it over here. It's going to be 20. 20 people result in the angle to be 120, I believe. Yeah. And for this case, we have the angle which is 138, and we're supposed to find the missing number, this one, right? So we say people and then we say angle, right? So we just cross multiply for this case as well, and we find out the answer. Let's see what the answer is. So it's going to be 20 into 138 is equals to 120y. When we simplify this further, it's going to be y is equals to 20 into 138 over 120, 0 cancelled, and this is going to be 1, and this is going to be 6. And what is 138 over 6? That is 23. So here we go, we write 23 over here. The answer for this part is going to be 23. Now we're supposed to complete the pie chart. All right, so this must be done with the help of a protractor, right? I don't have a protractor over here, obviously, because of solving this digitally. Um, with proper angles being measured, right? But we'll do it. Cycle results in 120. We will be writing 120 degrees over here. Then what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to consider walking, that is around 72 degrees. So you will draw it. It's going to be, let's just say, somewhere here or lesser than that, obviously. So we just say this is 72 degrees. Guys, please use protractor for this case. 72, and that would be what? That would be walk. We write walk over here. And then we have 138 as car, so 138 would be somewhat greater than 90. So let's just say it's this angle, let's just say somewhere here, and we say this is 138. Make sure to mark these angles properly. 138 is going to be what? Car. This is going to be car, and the last one is what? That is bus of 30 degrees. So 30 degrees, and this is going to be what? This is going to be bus. Right, let's move on. Now the next part says Sam buys some chocolate. He eats 2/7 of the chocolate, and the mass of the remaining chocolate is 350. So what we know is the remaining mass, not the mass that he ate. So what is the remaining mass? We need to subtract it from 1 because the total fraction is always 1. So what we're going to do is basically this is going to be 1 minus 2 over 7, and this fraction would result to be 350 because he said the remaining chocolate is 350 grams. The remaining chocolate is going to be what? That is going to be 5 7, and that is equivalent to 350 grams, right? So this is the fraction and this is the mass, right? Now what's the next part? Now it says work out the mass of the chocolate that Sam buys. So what did Sam buy? He bought uh, what he ate and what he did not leave. So that results in the fraction 7 over 7, which is 1 itself. So what you're going to say is 1 is equivalent to unknown amount that we're supposed to find. So what this will result in 5 over 7 is equals to 350. I mean, and 1 is equivalent to z. But then what do? We do cross multiplication, and when we do cross multiplication, let's see what the answer is. So this is going to be 5 over 7. Z is equals to 350, and z is going to be 350 times 7 over 5, and this is 1, and this is 70, and the answer is going to be what? Z is going to be 490 grams in total. Let's move on to the next one. It says um Emmy car hire. Now this is a concept of hire and purchase. So it says a car is hired at basically $40 per day, and then an additional cost of 30 cents per kilometers. Now it says Amy hires a car for 10 days, so the price is going to be 10 times 40 for each day, right? So that would result in 40 into 10. Now this is the price for 10 days, that's a fixed price basically. And it further says that she pays a total of $670. Work out the number of kilometer Amy travels. So what are we going to do? We'll try to calculate the total price that would result in the fixed price of 10 days and then the kilometers used. We do not know how many kilometers were traveled, so what we're going to do is x number of kilometers into the price of each kilometer, that is 0.3. Now they should be equivalent to the total price 670, right? So this would be 0.3x is equals to 670 minus 400. When we do that, it's going to be 0.3x is equals to 270, and x is going to be 270 over 0.3. Now it's a relatively difficult decimal to solve, so what we'll do is we'll just shift the decimals. Since it's a non-calculator paper, it's going to be 2700 over 3, and that would be easy to solve. This is going to be 90 and then 0, 900, right? Here we go, that's 900. Here we go. um Transformation. The diagram shows triangle A and triangle B. Describe fully the single transformation that maps A onto B. So we are going from A till B. So what will we do? We will basically check whether or not the two shapes are of same size. They are of same size, right? So the next thing that we're going to check is whether or not this looks like a copy paste. Like, did you pick this object and drop it somewhere else? No. Why? Because the orientation is different. They're kind of mirrored. So it's neither translation nor enlargement, right? Neither of the two cases. So the third step to check whether this is reflection or rotation, we join the corresponding points. So when we do that, let's join the corresponding points. We check, are the lines parallel? Yes, the lines are parallel. If the lines are parallel, we know that this is going to be reflection. So we write reflection. But is this going to be the answer? We are not going to get full marks for this. So instead, what we're going to do is we need to find the line of reflection as well, the equation of reflection. And what is the equation of reflection? That is basically passing from the midpoints of each parallel line, which is basically the perpendicular bisectors. If you have a look, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So that means after 5 blocks, 1 2 3 4 5. So somewhere here and here, this is going to be the line of reflection like this, and this line is known as what? This is known as x is equals to 1. So this is going to be the equation for x is equals to 1. Since it's a vertical straight line with no gradient, so we write x is equals to 1. This is going to be the equation, right? Now, equation of reflection. Now it further says draw the image of triangle A after a rotation of 180 degrees from 0 0. So we are supposed to rotate triangle A with a rotation 0 0 through the origin 0 0 at 180 degrees or through 180 degrees. So how are you going to do this? The first thing that we need to understand is that we're supposed to rotate this, so it's going to look something like this. Now the next part is going to be what? The next part will be, we will be rotating this, so it's an easier way to do this. I'll tell you what we're supposed to do. Now this one is -4 and 2, -4 2. This one is -3 2, -3 2, and this one is what? -4 and 5, -4 and 5. So for these cases, what we do is, now you can either do it manually by moving each point again and again like this. Let's suppose it's this, so 180-degree rotation would act something like this, or you can use a shortcut for origin, that is switching the signs of each number. So -3 2 would give me 3 and -2, right? So you just flip the sign. So -3 2, if you switch both the signs, it's going to be 3 and -2. So 3 and -2 would be somewhere here, and then -4 2 would be what? That would be 4 and -2. So 4 and -2 would be here, and the last one is what? -4 and 5. That is going to be 4 and -5, so it's going to be right here. So you just change the signs, that is it. So we change the signs, and this is how it's going to look, a triangle like this, right? Let's move on to question number 9. The question number 9 says, by writing each number to correct one significant figure, work out an estimate for the value of this. Now one significant figure means we can only write for the first value, and the rest are probably supposed to be 0. Now what this means is 102 correct to the one significant figure has to be 100, because we're supposed to answer as one significant figure, and this 8.7 has to be 9 into 9 upon 27. Now this 27 should be answered in one significant figure, which would result in 30. And now when we further solve this, this is going to be root of 100 is 10 times 9 upon 3, 30, and this would be 90 over 30, and 90 over 30 gives us 9 over 3, which would be 3 basically. The answer is for this question is going to be 3. The next part says a circle has diameter 12 centimeters. Find an area of the circle and give your answer in terms of pi. That means we are not supposed to multiply pi at the end like 22 or 7 or 3.142, but instead we're supposed to answer it in that form. And the area for circle that we've learned so far is pi r square, and the radius is half times diameter, so radius is going to be 12 over 2, which is going to be 6. So it's going to be a is equals to pi times 6 square, and this has to be a is equals to 36 pi, right? 36 pi, and this is the answer in terms of pi. The question number 11 says a bag contains 10 plums. The mean mass of 6 of the plums is 50 grams, and the mean mass of the remaining 4 plums is 40 grams. Calculate the mean mass of all 10 plums in the bag. So what is the formula to find mean? The formula to find mean is going to be total sum, or sum basically, total sum over the quantity. Now we need to find sum of all 10 plums. So how can we find that? For that, we'll have to solve this individually into two portions. Now what do I mean? Now we have the mean 50 grams for 6 plums, so the mean is going to be 50. We are not sure of the sum for that case, and the quantity was 6 for that case. And for the second case, we know that the mean is 40. The sum, we are not sure about the sum for the second case, and the quantity was 4, right? So we are going to find sum of both of these cases individually and then add these together at the end. So this is going to be 6 times 50 is going to be 300. Now this is sum of 6 plums, and then we'll do it same way. It's going to be 4 times 40, which is 160. That is the sum of um or s of, let's just say s, let's make it easy. So it's going to be sum of the 4 plums, right? So what is the total sum? The total sum, or the total mean, final mean, is going to be 300 plus 160 upon the quantity, the total quantity, which is 10. So this is going to be 460 over 10, and due to that the answer is going to be 46, right? Let's move on. 0 and 0 cancel basically. Let's move on to the next part. It says the diagram shows an empty container. The container is a cuboid of width 10 centimeter, length 8 centimeter, and height 9 centimeter. Water drips into the container at the rate of 6 milliliters per second. Find the time in the seconds it takes to fill the container. Now, what is given, we know the rate basically, right? So 6 milliliters per second, and we know the length with which we can find volume. Alright, so what are we going to do? Now, the first thing for this question that we're going to do is going to be the volume. Now, how do you find volume? Now, in order to find volume, we can say it's going to be 10 into 8 into 9, and then this would be 8 into 9 is 72. So 10 into 72, and this would give us what? 720 centimeter cube. Right now, what we know is the volume of this cuboid is 720 centimeter cube, and it takes 7 milliliters per second. Now, students get confused in this portion. Now, please keep in mind this is milliliters, not millimeters, and the unit that we're supposed to understand the conversion is going to be 1 centimeter cube is equals to 1 milliliters as well. So that means we're kind of at the same unit at this moment, right? So what this means is every second approximately 6 centimeter cube is being dripped into the container. So how long it's going to take? Now we're going to take volume and then divide it with time to find the total time, right? The divided with rate, sorry. We take the volume and divide it with the rate, that is 6 centimeter cube per second. Now this is going to be 6 centimeter cube per second, and we're going to divide it in order to find the time, right? So what we'll do is time is equals to volume upon rate. Since the formula was the rate is equals to volume upon time, this is the general formula from where we derive this, and then it's going to be 720 over 6, and we know that 6 ones are 12s are, and the answer is going to be 120 seconds for this case. Let's move on. Let me write it here. The next part says work out the fraction. We have a couple of mixed fractions and we are supposed to answer it in mixed fractions as well. So let's write this. Now these units, these numbers are multiplied and then they're added together. Let's do it real quick. So we are supposed to multiply these and then we are supposed to add these, right? Same goes over here. We are supposed to multiply these and we are supposed to add these. So what is this going to look like? This will be 3 times 2, that is 6. 6 plus 2 is, let's do it this way, 3 into 2 plus 2 over 3. And then let's do it further. It's going to be what? 3 into 4 plus 3 into 4 plus 3 upon 4. All right. Now this would be 6 plus 2, 8 over 3. 8 over 3 plus 12 plus 3, that is 15 over 4. And then we solve this further. We just cross multiply or take the LCM, whatever method you like. I prefer cross multiplication for some reason. Cross multiplication and the denominators being multiplied. That's one way of taking LCM. So 4 times 8 is what? That is 32. Plus 15 times 3 is going to be 45 upon 12. So this is going to be 32, and this 45, that is going to be 3 into 7, 7, and 5 plus 2, 7. 77 over 12. So what is 77 over 12? We kind of take the division. Now how do we divide these? Let's do this real quick because we are supposed to answer in mixed fractions. 77 upon 12. So 12 6 zar is going to be 72. So we are left with 5 as a remainder. So it's going to be 6 whole numbers. 5 over 12. Here we go. Let's solve it further. Kinematics. Leah cycles 800 meters in 105 seconds. The diagram shows the speed time graph for this journey. Work out the value of v. How are we supposed to find v? Now, what do we know over here? We know the distance. Now, we need to know for speed time graph, area under the graph is basically distance, right? Area is equals to distance in what? In a speed time graph, right? So, in a speed time graph, we know that area is equals to distance basically, right? So how are we supposed to find the area? Now we know that these two areas would result in 800 meters. Now we either solve this as a trapezium or we solve it into two parts where we see a triangle and a rectangle, right? So whatever you find easy, you can use any of the two methods. For this case, what we're going to do is I'll break it into two parts. So we can say area of a triangle is half into base. The base for this case is going to be 10, and the height, as we know, is going to be what? The height is v. So half into 10 into v plus this unit, which is going to be 10 and 105. You subtract these two, you get 95 times the height, again, is going to be v, because the area of rectangle is length into breadth. So this is going to be 95v. And this would give us what? This should be equivalent to the area that we know, which was 800. So we solve this, ones are 5 zeros. So what we get is 5v plus 95v is equals to 800, and 100v is equals to 800, and v is equals to 800 over 100, which gives us what? That gives us 8. So this is going to be 8, and the unit is going to be what? That is going to be meter per second, as stated over here. Right. Next part says work out Leah's acceleration during first 10 seconds. Now we need to understand, for a speed time graph, acceleration is basically the gradient. It's the gradient of speed time graph. Now, gradient of speed time graph, we are supposed to find it for the first 10 seconds. That means this part. Now we are supposed to find gradient of this line, this journey. So we need to know the any two coordinates. Now what coordinates do we know over here? We can say we are aware of this coordinate, since we have the time, that is 10, and then we found out t, that was 8, and the other coordinate is going to be 0, 0. So what we're going to say is we are supposed to find the gradient of 10, 8, and 0, 0. So 10, 8, and 0, 0, and the formula is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. So we do it, m is equals to 8 minus 0 upon 10 minus 0, and this would give us what? 8 over 10, which is 0.8 meter per second squares in acceleration. So this question seems from statistics. It states the cumulative frequency diagram shows information about journey times, and we have this cumulative frequency diagram. It says use a cumulative frequency diagram to find an estimate for the mean. Now, in order to find mean, we should be knowing that mean is 50% or half of the total data. What's the maximum data that we have? It's basically this number, which is 60. So we say 60, half of 60. What is going to be half of 60? Let's calculate that. For median, we do half of 60. That gives us 30. But please keep in mind, this is not my answer, right? So we know this 30 over here, and we need to find its respective answer from the x-axis. Right? So what are we going to do? We are going to draw a line and extend it. We will be drawing a line like this. Please use a ruler to draw this, and then we will be finding its respective answer from the x-axis, and let's see what the answer is. A line like this, and this is going to be 24. Right? So the answer for this part is going to be 24. Please keep in mind, for medians, we are supposed to answer from the x-axis. Same goes for upper quartiles, lower quartiles, and interquartiles. Now the next part says the number of journeys that took 20 minutes or more. So now the data that we have is from the y-axis, and the question states that we need to find the number of journeys that took 20 minutes or more. That means the data from 20 and above in this direction, right? So now what are we going to do? Now we will again do the same method, but in the reverse order. So it's going to look something like this. Now let's start from 20, but in the reverse order. That means I'll extend the line vertically, and when it intersects, I'll draw a horizontal line on the left side to find the value. Now this is what this turns out to be, 1, 2, 3, 23. But keep in mind, this is not my answer. Why? Because we were supposed to find the data for greater than 20 minutes. So greater than 20 minutes on this y-axis represents greater than 23 for this case. I mean the data that is over here. So what we'll do, now we basically need to find this data set. Now how do you find this data set? To find this data set, what we're going to do is we're going to find keep in mind the total that we had, that was 60, and we're going to do 60 minus 23. All right. So this is going to be what? This is going to be 60 minus 23. I'm using a different color, I believe. Let's use this one. So 60 minus 23. That will give me 37. Here we go. Let's move on to the next question. That's question number 16. Now it says points P, Q, R, S, and T lie on a circle center O. QV is a tangent to the circle at tangent T, and SOQV is a straight line. We know the angle QST to be 32, it's going to be this. Now, what we should be knowing over here is that due to now, since we have a tangent and then we have a few triangles, we don't have radius over here, do we? Yeah, we don't have radius with the tangent. That means we will probably not be having a 90 degrees over here due to the tangent and the radius. But instead, what we can have a look at is going to be, it's going to be what? Let's see. We're supposed to find QRT, which is going to be QRT over here. We're supposed to find this. Now, what can we say? We can say that this is also going to be 32. Now, why 32? Because of the alternate segment theorem. So, we're going to say 32, and this is going to be alternate. No, not alternate, sorry. Alternate is for tangents. Alternate is for triangles and the tangents, but instead this is going to be angles in the same segment. Sincere apologies, this is going to be angles in the same segment. Angles in the same segment. Now, what's this property? Let me show it to you real quick. Now, the property states that if you have a circle and then we see a shape like this with kind of a butterfly, this angle would be same as this angle. This angle would be same as this angle, and then the other angles are going to be same, right? This angle is going to be same as this angle, right? So we can see kind of a similar shape over here. The next angle that we're supposed to find is going to be TQS. How are we going to find TQS? This is the angle that we're concerned about. And in order to find this, the first thing that we need to realize is that we have a diameter SQ, and since we have a diameter SQ, with the help of that we can also form a triangle that is STQ. So this angle is going to be 90 due to the property of angles in a semicircle, and then we can find this angle by doing 180. Now for this, what we can do is 180 minus 90 minus 32. So this is going to be 90 minus 32, 90 minus 32, which is why this is going to be 58. This is going to be 58. Now we're supposed to find angle TVQ. What is TVQ? This is going to be interesting. 58. So this is 58. Now we are supposed to find this angle. How do we find this angle? In order to find this angle, we should be knowing what other properties can we see. Now we see a tangent and a triangle with the help of that, so we can probably form an alternate segment theorem, and due to alternate segment theorem, this angle 32 is going to be same as this angle, and this would be 32, right? And we know this angle because this is VQ was a straight, SQV was a straight line, so this is going to be 180 minus 58. So 180 minus 58 gives us what? That gives us 122. So this is going to be 122. So in order to find the green angle, what we're going to say is that is going to be 180, because the sum of this triangle is going to be TQV. The sum of this triangle is going to be 180. So 180 minus 122 and 52. So it was 52, right? 32 and 122, sorry. So 32 and 122. 154, and this is going to be 26 degrees. So that's what we're going to do over here. Question number 17. It says the diagram shows a prism. The cross section of the prism is an isosceles triangle with the sides 13, 13, and base 10. The length of the prism is 3. So this length is 3, and it says show that the volume of the prism is 180 degrees. Now the volume is of a prism is calculated with cross-sectional area into length, or you can say volume is equals to the base area times the length, where this is supposed to be the cross section. All right, this has to be the cross section. Now how do we solve this? Now we need to understand that this is the question states that the cross section of the prism is what? Let me highlight this for you. The cross section of the prism is an isosceles triangle. That means this is going to be the triangle. All right, now this has to be my triangle because it's the cross section, and then this has to be the length, which is connecting the two similar cross sections. The front isosceles triangle and the back isosceles triangles is connected by the length 3. So this is going to be 3. Now, how am I going to find area of the isosceles triangles? Now, there are two formulas for triangles. It's either going to be half into base into height or half into AB sine C. Since this is paper 1 of O levels, we'll probably not be going for the second formula. We'll instead try what area is going to be half into base into height. Now, if I consider my base to be 10, which is this, so the height has to be the perpendicular length to that, and we'll have to find the height first. How can we find height? Let's see. Now, in order to find height, we may have to use certain other properties. This is going to be 5 because it's going to be half of 10. So we will probably be using Pythagoras theorem, since this is going to be right angle triangle. So it's going to be 13 square is equals to h square plus 5 square. That would result in 169 minus 25 is equals to h square, and 144 is equals to h square, and h is going to be what? Root of 144, and the value for h is going to be 12. So now we have the height as well. So area of triangle is going to be what? Now the area of triangle is going to be half into 5. That was the base. Oh, actually the base was 10, so it's going to be half into 10 times the height, which is, we just found 12, right? So this is going to be 1, this is going to be 6, and 10 times 6 is 60. Now keep in mind, this is just the area of triangle, centimeter squares, which we are going to plug in the base area right over here. Here we go. Now the volume would be what? That has to be 60 times 3, as we decided earlier. So this has to be 180 centimeter cubes as the volume. Let's move on to the next one. The next question says, a mathematically similar prism has a volume of 1440 centimeter cube. The cross section of the prism is an isosceles triangle with the base x centimeters. Now this is the concept of similarity. Now we are supposed to use volume. It says the volume of a mathematically similar triangle, or prism, actually it's 1440. So what's the formula? It's V1 where V2 is equals to L1 over L2 cube. Do we have the volumes? We have the volume for the first case, which is 180, all right, and the second triangle, the similar triangle, is 1440, and it says a mathematically similar volume of the a mathematically similar prism has a volume of 1440 centimeter cube. The cross section of the prism is an isosceles triangle with base x. So we're supposed to consider the lengths to be the bases, right? So this base is known as x. Do we know the base of this triangle? Yes, we do. It's what? It's going to be 10. So we use 10, and it's supposed to be a cube on this. So this will turn out to be what? Let's see. It's going to be 1440 is equals to 1000 over x cube. When we simplify this further, it's going to be x cube is equals to 1000 into 1440 over 180, where we can simplify the 0 and 0 cancelled, and we can simplify this further. When we simplify this further, this will probably be divided by 2, so it's going to be 9, and this is going to be 72, and then this is going to be 1 and 8, right? So this x cube is going to be what? That is going to be 8000, but we're supposed to find the value of x. In order to find x, what we're going to do, we are going to take a root on both sides. That's going to be a cube root, and it's going to be cube root of 8000, and with that we can say, we know this to be 8 into 1000, right? And the cube root of 8 is 2, and the cube root of 1000 is 10, so it's going to be 2 into 10, which is why it's going to be 20. All right, let's move on. Write 0.14 as a fraction, a concept of recurring decimals. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to introduce an x, so it's going to be 0.14, where this is the repeating pattern, so we put a basket underneath it. So we'll see how many decimal places it's far apart. So it's 1 decimal place, and the end of the basket is 2 decimal places, right? So this is 1 dp and 2 dp. So we need to keep in mind 1 decimal place is basically a multiple of 10, and 2 decimal place is basically a multiple of 100. So we multiply these equations with 10 and 100. So when we multiply with 100, it's going to be 100x. We multiply this whole thing with basically what? we multiply this whole thing with into 10 and 100, right? So when you multiply it with 100, this will be 100x is equals to, now since 4 is recurring, so it's going to be 14.4, and if we multiply it with 10, it's going to be 10x is equals to 1.4, right, where 4 is recurring. Now we need to subtract the two equations. When we do that, this is how it's going to look. Subtracted 4 and 4 cancel, so it's going to be 14 minus 1, that is going to be 13, and 100 minus 10, that is going to be 90. X is equals to 13, and the value for x is going to be 13 over 90. That's how it will be. Alright, let's move on to question number 19. It says that we are supposed to solve hg of x, which is equivalent to 5. This is a concept of composite functions. Major function is h, and h is basically h of x is 3 bracket minus 1. Wherever we have x, we'll plug in, we'll write a bracket instead of it. And since we are supposed to find hg of x, so what you're supposed to do is we are going to plug in this g inside of this, and this will turn into hg of x is equals to 3 times x upon 2 plus 4 and then minus 1 as it is. Now we need to keep in mind that the examiner said this hg of x was equivalent to 5. That means this can be written as 5, and this will become 5 is equals to 3x upon 2 plus 12 minus 1, then this would become 5 is equals to 3x upon 2 plus 11, and this 11 would go on to the other side, so 5 minus 11 is equals to 3x upon 2, and this would become minus 6 into 2 over 3 is equals to x, and x would be what? That would be 1s are, 2s are, so this is going to be minus 4. So the answer for x is going to be minus 4. Let's move on. Question number 19, write as a single fraction in its simplest form. So you can cross multiply, but that will not give you a correct answer, because that would turn out to be x squared and it would make things complicated for you. So instead we will be taking the LCM over here. So we would take 7 and this would be multiplied with 7 as well, and we take the LCM over here as well, so it's going to be 2 into 2. So the LCM of 2 and 7 is 14, so we try to convert this into 14, and this is what it's going to look like. 7 times 5 is what? That is 35 over 14x minus 4 2s are 8 over 14x, and what is 35 minus 8? That is 27 over 14x. That's going to be the answer, right? Sorry, this x is going to be in the denominator, so let me write it here. It says evaluate 27 power minus 2 over 3. So this is the power is in negative 2 over 3. So in order to get this, convert this into positive, we need to reciprocate this number. So it will be 1 over 27 power 2 over 3. The power would be as it is, we just change the sign. And the rule of identity says that the denominator is going to turn into root. So 1 over 27 basically inside the cube root, 1 over 27 inside the cube root, and then there's going to be a square on the whole thing due to the numerator being 2. So 1 over 27 gives us 1 over 3, and the square of 1 over 3 is going to give us 1 over 9. That's how you're going to solve this question. Let's move on to the next one. 100x power square. So this 100x power 100 and half on the whole thing. So this half is going to be multiplied with this and this as well. So this means 1 over 100 times half, and x power 100 times half as well. So what you're going to do, you take the root of this. So this will be a square root of 1 over 100, and you just simply multiply with the power 100 and half, right? So this turns out to be the square root of 1 over 100 is going to be 1 over 10 into this is going to be 1 over 10 times x of 50. That's how you're going to do this. Here we go. Let me do it. 1 over 100 is going to be 1 over 10, right? Here we go. The next question number 22 states the table shows some values for y is equals to x cube minus 3x plus 2. We are supposed to complete the table, so we will be plugging in minus 2. For the first time, y is equals to minus 2 cube minus 3 into minus 2 plus 2. This is going to be minus 8 plus 6 plus 2, and this turns out to be 0. Now for the second part, we're going to do the same process with positive 2. So y is equals to 2 cube minus 3 times 2 plus 2, and this would be 8 minus 6 plus 2, and this would turn out to be 4. Now we need to complete the table. We're done with the table. Now we need to draw the graph. So in order to draw the graph, what I'm going to do is I will basically be taking this. Wait one second. Here we go. Now let's draw this real quick. Now when we solve this, mhm, here we go. Right. Now we're supposed to fill this graph for x to be minus 3. Let's say minus 3 and minus 16. So minus 3 and minus 16 would be somewhere here. Make sure you use a cross or dot along with a circle around it. So minus 3 and minus 16, minus 2 and 0, it'll be somewhere here. And then we move on to the next one. That's going to be minus 1 and 4. So minus 1 and 4 is going to be somewhere here. And then 0 and 2 is going to be somewhere here. And 1 and 0 is going to be here. And 2 and 4. 2 and 4 is going to be right here. And then we move on to 3 and 20. This is where 3 and 20 is going to be. Now we need to complete this table. We need to complete this graph. We need to join these points. So let's join these points. When we join this, make sure it's a freehand sketch. Not the best one. Let's try to do it in one go. Right, and we join this further. Right, and we join these points now. Right, this is how it's going to look. Let's see what the next part has to say. The next part says, we're done with the graph. It says, by drawing a suitable line on the grid, find the solutions of this equation. Now in order to solve this, we need to first realize that this equation is quite similar to the first one. It's not exactly the same, it's similar to this one, and we're supposed to draw a suitable line, which is going to be straight line most likely, right? So what we'll do is we'll write this equation, y is equals to x cubed minus 3x plus 2. Y is equals to x cube minus 3x plus 2, and then we are supposed to find the solutions of this. So we're going to write it underneath x cube minus 7x plus 1, and then equals to 0 would come underneath y. Now what we'll do is we will basically be finding the difference, because we have already drawn this graph on the question on the graph paper, and then we are supposed to find solutions of this. So what we'll do is we'll find the difference of the two equations to know what we're supposed to draw and find the solutions of that. So y minus 0, we're going to subtract these. Y minus 0 gives us y, x cube minus x cube will be cancelled, minus 3x minus 4x will give me what? Minus 3x minus 4x will give me, sorry, 7x. Minus 7x will give me 4x. This would give me plus 4x, and then 2 minus 1 would give me plus 1. So this is the equation that I'm supposed to draw. Y is equals to 4x plus 1. So this means 4x plus 1 means, when I compare it with this, y is equals to 4x plus 1, that if I can if I compare this with y is equals to mx plus c, so this is going to be the y-intercept, which means the graph is going to be drawn over here at 1 of y-axis, right? So it's going to be somewhere, let me do it, it's going to be somewhere here, all right? right? And let's find another coordinate that we're supposed to find. So what we'll do is we'll randomly assume a point because we don't know how this line looks. So we'll randomly assume a point on the graph. Let's just say x is equals to 1. So y is equals to 4x plus 1, where we randomly plug in 1 over here, and it turns out to be y is equals to 4 times 1 plus 1, and that would be 5. So for x to be 1, y would be what? Y would be equivalent to 5. So 1 and 5, that's what it's going to look like. And we draw it where? We draw it on the graph paper, 1 and 5. This is the coordinate. Now the next step is going to be, I will be joining these points and form a straight line, and this is how it should look. Something like this, right? Now what we'll do is we will now be joining these points, and when we join these points, it still doesn't look to be accurate. Let's turn this around a bit, something like this, right? Now let's try to join these points. When I join these points, this is how the graph would look. These are the intersecting points. The solutions are going to be the intersecting points of the two graphs. This point, this point, and this point. We need to find the x-intercepts or x values of this, and these are going to be the answers. These are going to be the answers. Let's see. So the answers that turn out to be for us is going to be somewhere this. Let's just say it's around here, right? And this one turns out to be 2.6, I believe, right? So let's just say this is 2.6, and this one is 0.1, and that one is somewhere around 2.4, I believe. Here we go. Now keep in mind the examiner for such questions gives you a bit of range, and the answers can slightly differ from your colleagues or your friends, but it has to be within the examiner's answer scheme, marking scheme. So it's going to be 2.6 minus 2.6, sorry, minus 2.6, 0.1 and 2.4. Done. Right, so the next part says simplify this. The question from SIDS. Now since it's a multiplication of SIDS, so we can multiply the two numbers inside the root. So it's going to be 8 into 6, and 8 into 6 gives us what? 48, right? So 48 plus root of 3. Now we need to simplify this. So when we simplify this, we do prime factorization of 48. This would be 2, and then sorry, 24, and then further by 12, and then by 2 it would turn out to be 6, and further by 2 it would give me 3, and further by 3 that'll give me 1. So we have two squares and two squares, right? So what happens is 2 square into 2 square into 3, these would come outside the root, and what we're going to do is 2 into 2 will come outside of the root, and this will become 4. So this becomes 4 root of 3 plus a root of 3, which means this is going to be 1 root of 3, and when we add these together it's going to be 4 plus 1, 5 root of 3. That's how we're going to answer this. The next part is of rationalization. For rationalization, what we're supposed to do is we multiply the denominators with the conjugate, right? Or the whole fraction with the conjugate of the denominator. So this is going to be 3 times 2 minus root of 5 multiplied by 2 plus root of 5 and divided by 2 plus root of 5. So this 3 will be multiplied with these two. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times root of 5 is plus 3 root of 5 upon, it's going to be 2 square, the third identity, minus root of 5 square, and this would be 6 plus 3 root of 5 upon 4 minus 5, and this would be 6 plus 3 root of 5 upon minus 1, which is why the signs of the numerator will change, and this will turn out to be minus 6 minus 3 root of 5. That's how we are going to answer this one. Question 24. Question 24 states that we need to The diagram shows a rectangle and a triangle. The length of the rectangle is x centimeters and the area of the rectangle is 30 centimeters squares. The triangle has sides x minus 1, x plus 2 and 2x minus 3. Write down the expression in terms of x for the width of the rectangle. Now this is potentially the width. If this is the width, we know that the area of this is 30. So we should be knowing that width times x, because this dimension multiplied with this dimension would give us 30. So that is going to be equals to 30 and we're supposed to find width. So width is going to be 30 over x. And here we go 30 over x. Now the next part says the perimeter of the rectangle is equal to the perimeter of the triangle. The perimeter of the rectangle can be founded by adding all the four sides, which means 30 over x plus x plus x plus 30 over x. It's going to be twice the two lengths and the two widths. We add all the sides, so it's going to be 30 over x times 2 plus 2x. Why? Because we had x and it's going to be twice, and then 30 over x is going to be twice. It says the perimeter of the rectangle is equal to the perimeter of the triangle. We're done with the rectangle. Now we add the triangle. It's going to be x minus 1 plus x plus 2 plus 2x minus 3. We add all the three sides, and then this would result in what? It's going to be 60 over x plus 2x is equals to x plus 2x is going to give us 4x, and then plus 2 and plus 2 and minus 4, that's going to be minus 2, right? So when we solve this further, this 2x is going to go on the other side. 60 over x is equals to 4x minus 2x, so this would give me 2x on this side minus 2, and when we solve this further, it's going to be 60 is equals to 2x square minus 2x, because this x will be multiplied with this whole bracket, and then this is how it's going to look. If we simplify this further, let's see if we can simplify this. We're still not able to prove it, so what we're going to do is 2x square minus 2x minus 60 is equals to 0. Is this the same equation that the examiner demanded? No, it's not the same. Why? Because the examiner has given it in the simplest form. How can we simplify this? By potentially taking 2 as common. So when we take 2 as common, it's going to be x square minus x, and then it's going to be this 2 will be divided and it will become 0 as well. It will become x square minus x minus 30 is equal to 0. Now here we are able to prove it, right? Now the last part says, the C part says actually to solve the equation x square minus x minus 30. Now this is a quadratic equation. It's up to you whichever method you prefer, but I think we can probably be solving this. We can solve this using middle term breaking, or which we call as factorization as well, right? So how can we get 30? We can get it by, let's say we have 1 over here and 1 can be multiplied with 30. This would give me 1 into 30 is equals to 30, and the factors of 30 is going to be 1 into 30, 2 into 15, 3 into 10, and then 5 into 6, right? And then the reverse order, 6 into 5, 10 into 3, 5, but we don't need to write that. So we need to get minus x, that means we need to get 1, so which can be achieved with the help of this factor, and this will turn out to be x square minus 6x plus 5x minus 30 is equals to 0, and we take x as common. If we take x as common, we're going to left with x minus 6 plus 5, and then x minus 6 is equals to 0, and this would be, since the two brackets are same, that means we are doing it correctly. It's going to be x minus 6 and x plus 5 is equals to 0. So for the first one, it's going to be x is equals to 6 or x is equals to minus 5. So it's going to be 6 and minus 5. It says work out the perimeter of the rectangle. Now we had already found out the perimeter over here. It was 60x plus 2x, 60 over x plus 2x. So that's what we're going to do. 60 over x plus 2x. Now we need to keep in mind that the lengths or the perimeters can only be positive, right? So we will not be considering the negative number over here. We'll reject it for now. We have the value of x from the part C, and then we are going to plug in. We'll be plugging in 6 into this. So it's going to be what? 60 over 6 plus 2 into 6. So it's going to be 10 plus 10 plus 12, right? So it's going to be 10 plus 12, and that should give us the answer. Let's see. 10 plus 12, and that should give us 12. So not 12, but that should instead give us what? 22 as the final answer. Here we go. Let's move on to question number 25. As you can see, this is a polynomial expression, and in this expression we can see that each of this term has x with it. So what we'll do is we'll take x as common, and when we take x as common, we'll be left with 6x squared plus 5x minus 4, and we have a quadratic expression inside the square bracket. So we'll probably go for factorization, that is also known as middle term breaking. So we will multiply 6 with 4, and what we get is 24, and then we'll write the factors of 24, which will turn out to be 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8. And 3 and 8 seems to be the best factor with which we can get 5, so plus 8 and minus 3. And this is what we're going to do. Now we'll be left with what? We can say x times 6x squared 8x minus 3x minus 4 and bracket close. Now further what we can do is we can simplify this, and we can take 2x as common. Once we take that, we'll be left with 3x plus 4, and over here nothing is common, hence we will take minus 1, and we'll be left with 3x plus 4. Since we can see that the two brackets are same, that means we can write this once and the numbers outside the bracket as once, and this will be written as x times 2x minus 1 and 3x plus 4, and that's going to be my answer, right? Let me write it clearly so it's easy for you. So it's going to be x times 2x minus 1 and 3x plus 4. Now the last question, vectors. So in this question you can see that the diagram shows the triangle OAB, and OA is A and OB is 4B. T is the point on AB such that AT ratio TB is 3 and 2. We are supposed to find AB. How can we find AB? Now this is what we're supposed to find, so we do not know the value directly, so instead we are going to look for an alternate path, and the best way would be that we go OA and OB. We do understand that the examiner has given a certain instruction, the direction, but we are not it is not necessary or mandatory for us to follow it. We can make our own directions, but then we need to reverse the signs as well. Now if we do that, we can say AB is equals to AO plus OB, and when we do that, we know that AO is what? That is A, but since we're not following examiner's instructions, so we will put a negative sign on it, and OB would be what? That'll be positive 4B. So that's going to be the answer. Now part B says show that the position vector of T is 2 or 5 times A plus 6B. What are we going to do? If we have a look, what does position vector of T mean? Position vector means in terms of O, and since it says the position vector of T, that means the examiner wants us to find OT. Now how can we find OT? We would draw an arrow like this. This is what you're supposed to find. So what directions can we follow? We can go from OA and then from A to T. So what is this going to be? OT is equals to OA plus AT. Now if we further follow this, we have the value of OA. Yes, we do. That is what? That is positive of A, because we are following exactly the same directions. That is positive A plus AT. Do we know the value of AT? No, we don't, but we have a certain ratio that we can use. Now we know that we have the whole value of AB, and what is this AT going to be? It was 3, this part was 2, and since we know the whole portion was 5, so we can say that this is 3 out of the 5 portions of the AB. So this is going to be 3 over 5 of AB, and what is the value of AB? The value of AB we already knew, that was minus A plus 4AB. When we solve this further, it's going to be A minus 3 over 5 of A and plus 12 over 5 of B, right? When we simplify this further, it's going to be what? A minus 3 over 5 is what? That is 2 over 5 of A and plus 12 over 5 of B. We are almost done. but we're not exactly done. Why is that so? Because the examiner wanted us to answer in a specific format where he took 2 over 5 is common, so that we are going to do that as well. When we take 2 over 5 is common, so we are left with a plus, and when we take 2 as the common from the numerator, we'll be left with 6, and 5 was also taken as common from the denominator, so this is going to be the answer as the examiner demanded. The last part, it says q is the point on OB such that qt is equals to 1 over 5 times 2a minus 3b. Now what is qt? Let's see, we do not know what is qt. So but the examiner said q lies on OB, so we can just draw it randomly over here, and this is going to be the qt that the examiner provided us, and this value is 1 over 5 times 2a minus 3b, right? So what are we going to say? In order to find the ratio of OQ and QB, we need the values of OQ ratio QB. Do we have the values? No, we don't. So we need to find it. How can we find OQ? Let's see. In order to find OQ, this was Q that we just marked. In order to find OQ, we can select an alternate path that can probably be OA, AT, and TQ in the reverse order. So what we're going to say, OA, AT, and TQ. OQ is going to be OA plus AT. Do we have the values? Yes, we do. OA, the value for OA is going to be A. The value for AT is going to be, as we discussed earlier, that is 3 over 5 times minus A plus 4B. And the value for TQ is going to be negative of QT. Why? Because we are not following examiner's instructions. We are using it the other way around. So it's going to be minus of 1 over 5 2a minus 3b. And when we solve this, it's going to be plus, instead it's going to be negative, because 3 over 5 multiplied with negative of a would give you minus 3 over 5 of a plus 3 times 4 is 12 over 5 of b minus 2 over 5 of a minus 3 over 5 of b. Now, if we have a look at this carefully, minus minus, sorry, that'll give me plus. So minus minus, that gives me plus. And if we have a look at this carefully, we can see that minus 3 over a and minus 2 over 5 over a. So minus 3 minus 2, that is minus 5 over 5. That is minus 1a, right? So plus 1a and minus 1a will be cancelled, all right? Now we are only left with these two terms, and this would give me what? This would mean 12 plus 3 is 15 over 5 of b, and this is the value of OQ. And this OQ turns out to be 3b. Now have a look at this carefully. Since we have OQ, now we know OQ to be 3b, and we had OB to be 4b. So what's this remaining part? This remaining part is going to be 1b, obviously, right? And we are supposed to find the ratio of this. So what is going to be the ratio? Let's see. OQ, it's OQ ratio QB, and this was 3b ratio 1b, and we do not need b's because that is commonly available in both, and ratios is written in the simplest format, hence it's going to be 3 ratio 1. That's how you're going to solve this. So that was it for this paper. I hope you enjoyed it, and just let me know in the comments whichever paper you'd want me to solve next. Bye bye, take care.